Mistakes happen, and lessons are learned. Hey everyone, I'm Grant and welcome back to the channel. Now in my last video I installed the Warren 8274 and I'm absolutely loving it, though I do notice it is leaking oil, so I'm going to have to investigate that at some point. But the goal for this weekend is to maybe hear the BEW TDI run, or at least that's the goal. My goal for tonight is just to hook up enough stuff that the starter spins and I can hear the engine spin over. I'm not going to have fuel lines hooked up to it, though I have all the parts to do it. I have been doing some work on and off, and it's all the annoying little stuff that I haven't really been filming. I put on the oil feed line, made a little bracket for it. I made a bracket for the transmission filler line, so now it doesn't vibrate all the way. And I've cleaned up all the wiring in here as well. I still had some wiring left over that was supposed to be for the Kubota V2403, so I got all of that. But in trying to get everything prepared, I broke this sensor here. Now this is a fuel temperature sensor that the ECU needs to see to run the TDI engine. And I tried every trick I knew to get that hose off. I tried cutting the hose, twisting, and that part was so brittle, I just ended up going and ordering a brand new piece. So I have that right here. I have also mounted the fuel filter. So I'm going to show you the couple of clips real quick where I did all that, and then we'll move on to actually working on what I'm planning on doing with this today. So I'm going to get to it.
The first thing I did was install the oil feed line to my turbo. I ended up routing the oil feed line over the engine instead of behind it. Next, I had to cut away a tab that was interfering with the serpentine belt on my timing belt cover. With everything clearance, I reinstalled everything with Loctite. Even with the smaller idler pulley, I still needed the help of my daughter to get the serpentine belt back on. I then started the process of figuring out where all the wiring for the BEW TDI had to go.
Alright everyone, I was going to start hooking up all the wiring, and I quickly discovered that I can't get the glow plug wiring harness on without removing this accessory relocation bracket. So I'm going to remove the entire thing, install the wiring, and then install this bracket back on. So it's going to be fun!
I started by removing the belt tensioner, then the alternator, and finally the AC compressor. With all of those items gone, I was finally able to remove the original accessory bracket off of the relocation bracket on my motor. After removing the accessory relocation bracket, I had to clean off the glow plugs before installing the new glow plug wiring harness and then reinstalling the bracket back onto the motor. Next, I turned my attention to installing the original bracket that holds the Volkswagen fuel filter / water separator. I then turned my attention to hooking up the starter.
Alright everyone, this is the first time I've had a battery hooked up to this thing in a very long time. There's no fuel going to the motor. The motor is not even hooked up. The power to the ECU is not even hooked up. I'm just trying to see if I have everything wired correctly to spin the motor over to make sure nothing is binding between the engine and the transmission, the torque converter, the flex plate, and all those parts. With the engine spinning over, now I need to start focusing on the couple of things I need to button up so we can actually hear this thing run. And one of those things is this fuel temperature sensor. Now, originally this was really close to the block over here, And I still might mount it over there, but I'm actually thinking about mounting this over here just so it's easier to get to and replace. So I'm going to spend a little bit trying to figure that out. And I do apologize for not the great camera placements. My magnetic mount that I've been using for years on this channel finally broke, and I haven't fixed it yet. So I am going to fix it. Just haven't had the time to yet. But I want to hear this thing run, so I'm going to get back to work. Okay, I think I have all the lines feeding the injection pump, or it's also a vacuum pump. I forget what it's called. They call it something weird on this PD motor. But I think I have the supply and the return lines all hooked up correctly. So what I'm going to do real quick is go put the key in run. I'm not going to hit the starter. I have the fuel pump relay pulled. I'm going to come over here, plug in the relay. I'll be able to hear the fuel pump start. And I want to check to see if we're going to have any fuel leaks. Right, ignition is on. Here's to hoping my fuel pump still works. No leaks. Good. I think I'm going to call it quits for the evening. It's pretty late. I think it's after 11 o'clock. I don't even know where my phone is. But I'm going to hit this head on in the morning after I get some sleep. Morning, everyone. It's actually kind of cold here, and I overslept a little bit, but I actually feel really good, and I'm excited to try to tackle this to get this engine started today. Now, a couple of things we have to do is obviously we have to hook up this wiring to the motor. We're not hooking it all up because I don't have any of the accessories on it right now. Need to button up one or two things over here. We did the fuel last night. Oh, that's the other thing. I'm going to have to wire up the throttle pedal, the battery, which I'm going to try running this one way that I'm not sure I'm going to keep permanently. But I am going to run it this way just for the test fire. And I need to hook up the wires for ignition switch on. And once I have all of that done, I believe we can attempt to test fire this thing, which is really exciting. So with that said, I'm just going to jump into it.
The first thing I tackled was hooking up all of the wires to the BEW motor. This really is a simple task because all the connectors are unique and you really can't hook up a connector to a wrong location. The last thing I did was hook up key switch power to my ignition switch.
Alright everyone, so here's the plan. I'm going to try starting it. It might not fire immediately because there might be air in the fuel lines. I am not going to run this very long because I don't have a radiator installed. I have coolant lines hooked up. There's so much not hooked up right now. The goal right now is just to see if it'll turn on and then quickly turn off. So I'm only going to run it for like 3 seconds. I'm not even going to rev the thing. Fire in the hole! Okay. Oh, it smells like diesel. I'm just trying to prime everything. I hear the relays clicking. Let me get a fan. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to go back through, check all the fuel lines, all that jazz. I could have hooked up something backwards. It's a possibility. I'm an idiot. I have figured out the problem. I have my fuel lines hooked up backwards. Oh, and I really hope I haven't damaged the tandem pump, but if I did, we'll just replace it. But I definitely have it hooked up backwards. See if this thing will fire. Come on, baby, catch. Come on. Whoa, we have a ton of fluid on the ground. What's going on? Okay, I've got a leak. I need to figure that out. Yep, that's what I was afraid of. Alright everyone, I know what's going on. I have damaged my tandem pump. It's what I believe creates the high pressure for the diesel, and it also creates the vacuum as well for brakes. Even though I have a hydro boost set up, I still need the vacuum for the turbo and my HVAC system. But basically what happened is, this is my fault. I hooked up the lines backwards, so I was supplying pressure to the return line instead of the supply line on the tandem pump, because I was doing this late last night. And I'm always really wary of these tandem pumps, because the first TDI I owned was a 2005 Golf TDI with a BEW, and I had a tandem pump fail. It started leaking. I didn't realize it had failed, and it filled the crankcase with diesel and oil, basically hydrolocked, and I destroyed that entire motor. So I'm not even going to risk it on this one. I'm going to call it quits for today. I'm going to go order a brand new tandem pump. It'll get here in about a week, and then we will try starting this again. While that's going on, I'm going to work on continuing to try to clean up some of the wiring and relays and figuring out other stuff. But unfortunately, this one's on me. So we're getting closer. It's trying to fire, but mistakes happen and lessons are learned. So I will just see y'all later. Goodbye.